that it? Well, that was a very anticlimactic way to end the central nervous system. Our brain is so cool, y'all. Really, really neat. Okay, don't look at that yet. Okay, so we're going to move on to the peripheral nervous system, and we'll get a good ways through it today. We'll start talking about the cranial nerves, and then we'll probably get out just a little bit early. All right, so the peripheral nervous system. Let's see, let's draw our awesome diagram of the nervous system. So we've got the CNS. We have the PNS, everything outside of the central nervous system. So this would be cranial nerves, spinal nerves, and some of the spinal nerves are also sensory receptors. Information going towards the central nervous system. And then of course we've got coming out of the central nervous system, other peripheral nervous system nerves that are motor. So we can control skeletal muscles, that's the somatic nervous system. Skeletal muscles, right, the things we can think about doing. And then we've got the things that we don't have to think about doing, and that is the autonomic nervous system. The ANS. So these are things that we don't think about: how fast our heart is beating, how fast we're breathing, how much our blood vessels are squeezing, how much you're urinating, how much you're digesting your food. But we can regulate it. So we're here to talk about everything but the brain and the spinal cord in this chapter. So it starts with sensory receptors. We have the peripheral nervous system nerves, and we'll talk a little bit about their repair. We'll talk about, remind ourselves of motor endings and motor activity, but hey, we already know that because we learned about the neuromuscular junction. And we're going to spend a lot of this chapter talking about reflex activity. So two main parts of this chapter of the peripheral nervous system are going to be, or at least the most important parts, are going to be the cranial nerves and reflexes. Okay, so here's the little diagram that I just drew. Maybe here I can write voluntary, and on the autonomic I can write involuntary. Usually, supposedly, you know, super secret spies can control their heart rate and stuff, but not normal people. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about sensory receptors, picking up on stimuli, either coming from the outside of our bodies or maybe from the inside of our bodies as well. So remember, our sensory receptors, they're activated somehow, and that results in a depolarization, a graded potential, EPSP, excitatory postsynaptic potential. And if the stimulus is strong enough, it triggers a nerve impulse. The brain understands that, you know, that signal is coming from a touch receptor on the, you know, phalanx number 1, distal. We classify our receptors a few different ways. Type of stimulus, we already know these, so that's going to be review. Body location, very straightforward. It's either inside or outside of the body. Excuse me. And structural complexity that your book goes into, we're not really going to discuss or worry about the structural complexity, but some are more complex than others. Okay, so this should be your review. Our mechanoreceptors pick up on touch, vibration, and pressure. And I guess stretch as well. So you can think of your touch receptors on your skin, or deep pressure, right? If your dog is leaning up against you, or vibration, or stretch. Stretch of the bladder, stretch of your intestines, stretch of your stomach, a lot of your urinary and digestive systems. Also, we've got some mechanoreceptors in your blood vessels too, picking up on how much they're stretched, right? So that your brain knows what the pressure is in your blood vessels. Thermoreceptors pick up on heat or cold, but really they pick up on changes in temperature, changes. They acclimate really quickly. So you have a change in temperature, you jump into a cold pool, you're like, whoa, whoa, that's super cold, and then you kind of get used to it. And the thermoreceptor stops sending information to your brain that it's cold. We have photoreceptors, those are only found in the eyeballs, only in the retina. Those are rods and cones. So we have about 4 or 5 types of photoreceptors we'll talk about. 3 types of cones, 1 type of rod. Chemoreceptors pick up on chemicals. So smell and taste are the chemicals of your special senses. And then changes in blood chemistry. So remember we just said that the blood-brain barrier breaks down in the hypothalamus so that your hypothalamus can test to see if you need to throw up, right? Those would be chemoreceptors testing. We also have chemoreceptors, for example, in the parathyroid gland, always testing our blood's calcium. Always testing, is there enough calcium? Is there enough calcium? Is there enough calcium? No. I'll release PTH, and then that will increase calcium in the body. What are some other blood chemistry ones? Those are good. And then nociceptors are sensitive to pain. So that's just like an extreme of something, an extreme touch, extreme pressure, extreme vibration, extreme heat, or extreme cold, or chemicals. The Nobel Prize in Anatomy and Physiology, actually just physiology, was won a couple of years ago by someone who was doing work on nociception. He determined nociceptors are just modified thermoreceptors. And he isolated some compound that they release. It must be like into the synaptic cleft. So he's trying to like isolate it and then neutralize it so that we can maybe get rid of pain. Pain's not great. I've had chronic pain for about 20 years. It is not fun. Okay, so we can classify by stimulus type, of course. Is it thermoreceptive? Is it mechanoreceptive? We can also classify our receptors based upon location. So, or location of the stimulus. So exteroceptors pick up on stimuli coming from outside of the body. So think about any information coming into your skin or your special senses. Your eyes, your ears, your nose. Touch, temperature, pain, at least pain on your skin. And interoceptors pick up on information from the inside of your body, basically from your internal organs, and so they're called visceroceptors. Viscero meaning from the viscera, from your internal organs. And these are sensitive to anything that's gonna be hurting your organ, really, or well, let's just say hurting it, right? So sensitive to chemical changes, or did you did you have something in your stomach that's upsetting your stomach? That's the best example I can give at the moment. Tissue stretch, is your bladder full? Is your stomach full? Do you have bloating in your intestines for some reason? Temperature changes. I can totally drink a glass of ice water on a hot day and I can feel that water going down my esophagus and cooling in my stomach. Pretty neat.
Would the passage of a kidney stone be like an example of the interoceptors?
Yeah, but in that case it would be a nociceptor. Yeah. Or is it? Would it be? I don't know. I guess it would just be a visceroceptor. Usually we're not aware of our visceroceptors unless something is wrong with our viscera. Right? If we're having a heart attack, oh yeah, then, well, actually not everybody. Men have a lot of heart attack chain. Hey, come have a lot of chest pain and left arm pain during heart attacks. Women, not all women do, just for the record. Talk more about that in 242. Okay, and then another location would be proprioceptors, just because they're a type of interoceptor, because they're inside your body, and they are located in your skeletal muscles and the tendons and ligaments. So I'll show you some pictures of these in a second. I'll show you some of their names. I think we're only going to learn the names of one or two of them. But this isn't, I've talked about this so many times, informs the brain of one's movements. I can close my eyes, I know that my arms are stretched out, I know that they're bent, I know they're down at my side. Those are all from my proprioception. All right, so the information coming from proprioceptors are twofold. Should I write it down? I'm not gonna write it down. Two things. The stretch of the muscle, so how long the muscle is, and the load placed upon that muscle, how heavy the load is, essentially. So how much that joint is stretched, and how much force is being put on that joint. So here we have exteroceptors, stuff outside of the body. Of course, we could have temperature receptors inside and pain receptors inside, right? But certainly anything in the skin is going to be considered an exteroceptor. Interoceptors are picking up on your internal organs, and the proprioceptors are detecting stretch and load. So in just a second, we'll look at the spindle fibers and the Golgi tendon organ. This is a table that I don't need you to memorize or anything, but I just wanted to show you. We've got like free nerve endings. They're not encapsulated. They're very, very simple. A lot of these are nociceptors for pain and simple thermoreceptors. We have these tactile or Merkel discs. These were in the upper epidermis, actually the lower epidermis, right, for like senses of touch. We've got our hair root plexus, right, attached to our hair follicles. But I mainly wanted to show you this table just to show you a couple things. Some of our receptors are slowly adapting, and some of our receptors are rapidly adapting, right? So for example, I have some touch receptors on my skin, my hair root plexus, that are rapidly adapting. I put my shirt on today, and I might have felt it slide across my skin, but then after that, I didn't really feel it much. Having deja vu. We talked about sensory overload already with the reticular activating system. Okay. It's like, wait, I was just talking about this. Right. But the idea is, like, let's say wind is moving the hair on your skin, and it keeps moving the hair on your skin. You might feel that first brush of wind, but after that, it stops sending the signal. It rapidly adapts and rapidly turns off due to repeated stimuli. Versus something that is slowly adapting. It's gonna keep giving you that signal, right? My dog is leaning up against my leg. I can feel him, I can feel him, I can feel him. It takes a while before my sensory receptors stop sending information to my brain that my dog is touching. And then I wanted to just show you these bottom three pictures and last word. We've got something called Ruffini endings. You can see it looks like nerves stretched around like a tendon. Here we've got muscle spindles. These are nerves wrapped around these, they're called spindle fibers in our skeletal muscles. We have tendon organs and joint kinesthetic receptors. These are wrapped around tendons and ligaments as well. So they're all picking up on the degree of stretch and the amount of load placed upon the tendons and ligaments. All of this information is coming up through the spinal cord, all this afferent pathway, sensory information along sensory neurons, being sent through the reticular formation and the reticular activating system, which is filtering out, sorting, and editing all of this information, and only sending like 1% of it up into the cerebral cortex, and proprioceptive information back to the cerebellum. So the proprioceptive information goes to the cerebellum, well, through the midbrain, through the brainstem, out through the pons, into the cerebellum, and then the cerebellum kind of picks up, okay, proprioceptive information, and we send that information up to the thalamus, and then up to the motor cortex to plan our skeletal movement. But in the meantime, we also have information coming up about like touch receptors, temperature, pain, it's called our general senses, are going up into the primary somatosensory cortex. So general senses, touch, temperature, pain. Oh, I guess proprioception is part of that as well. Okay, so in terms of interoceptors, we can have visceroceptors attached to our viscera. And sometimes our organs are unhappy and they do give us pain. I shouldn't drink milk. It's my favorite beverage ever. I can drink it all, but chocolate milk, oh, don't get me started. I want to drink some chocolate milk. But I'm lactose intolerant, so there's this, lactose sugar that my body is not able to break down, and bacteria love it, and they eat it, and they release a bunch of, gases, which then cause my intestines to bloat, and then hurts. I don't like it. Right? It's a vague aching, gnawing, I wouldn't call it a burning sensation, but you could imagine feeling a burning sensation, for example, if you have heartburn. Great example. So it's usually some tissue stretching. I can think of a full bladder, full stomach, or my awful story about my intestines stretching. A block of blood flow, so think of like a heart attack. The heart is being deprived of blood and it is screaming at the brain, it hurts. Any kinds of chemicals, again, I think of like eating something that's very toxic and potentially muscle spasms can cause visceral pain. So think of Charles Horse. Referred pain is really weird. I just kind of talked a little bit about one example of referred pain, and that is pain where your brain thinks it's coming from one place, but it's really coming from somewhere else. And it's because the pain nerves from two different places are bundled together and then sent up to the brain, and the brain doesn't know which is which, and so it just assumes both of them hurt. So visceral and somatic pain fibers travel along the same nerves, so the brain assumes the stimulus is coming from a common region. So left arm pain, for example, during a heart attack. Your heart is not in your left arm, but it sure does hurt there. Here's my favorite one. Your gallbladder, let's say you have gallbladder inflammation, right, or a gallstone, ouch. You're gonna hurt not only right there where your gallbladder is, but you're also gonna hurt in your right shoulder. Your gallbladder is nowhere near your right shoulder, very weird. But your brain doesn't know any better. Most of these, though, they are right where the organ is. This is pretty much right where your stomach is. If anything, it's a little, that's pretty much right where it is. So, it's not really a good example of referred pain. Let's see, your kidneys are kind of in your lower back, and your entire lower back and top of your lower extremities might hurt if you've got some kidney issues. Or let's look at like if you've got pneumonia, right? Or pleurisy, you've got some problems with your lungs. It might hurt up here in your cervical area, okay, as opposed to down in your thoracic area. So this can come in pretty handy, like for example, if your appendix bursts. The pain, it starts in one place and then it actually migrates over several hours to a different place. By the way, every time I've looked this up in the textbook, they say it starts in the umbilical region and ends at the right hip, so I don't understand why all the textbooks have it this way and the internet says something different. But I'm not a doctor, and I haven't gotten appendicitis. But if I ever feel pain in this quadrant, go to the doctor. Okay, long-lasting pain is awful. chronic pain. It can lead to pain amplification, just more pain. It's like your body learns the pain and then continues it. I've had chronic pain with sciatic in my right leg for about 10 years, and then I was fine for like 5 or 7 years, and now I've got it in my left leg, and it's been about 2 years now. It's pretty bad. That's all right though, I can't complain too much because I haven't lost any limbs. Some people lose limbs, and they still feel the limb. They feel a tingling or a burning sensation in that limb that was either amputated or lost due to trauma. So, phantom limb pain is pain felt in a limb that has been lost. Now they're using some epidural techniques so that we can put your nervous system to sleep when we remove your foot, let's say after necrotic foot from diabetes or something like that. And so the central nervous system doesn't feel that limb be taken away from it so traumatically, so to speak. Or they're doing really cool research. Actually, someone in my other class said that they had done this and it had helped with some of their physical therapy. But they're taking mirrors and they put it up to half of your body. And let's say you are missing your left arm. You can look into the mirror and you can wave your right arm, and it kind of looks like you're waving your left arm, and your brain is like totally tricked. The brain's kind of easy to fool, y'all. I haven't brought it up yet, so I'll bring it up now. There's a cool show. It's flipped around from platform to platform to platform. It was on Netflix for a while, then it was on Hulu, and I think it's on Disney Plus now. It's called Brain Games, and it's a bunch of episodes, and they have like normal people on the street do these little experiments, and they do visual things where they trick them visually, or all sorts of things. I could go into tons of episodes of that show. So check it out. It's a cool show. You'll learn a lot of cool new things about your brain. All right. Let's go to PNS part B. Oh, is it already time to take another? No, I think it is.
2.
Yeah, it's 2. So it's time. Is it exactly 2?
2:02.
2:02. All right, let's come back at 2:13. And that's fun. That'll be perfect. We get to start talking about the cranial nerves, and that'll give you something to study over the holidays. Aren't you lucky?